Hey there, Lori Kennedy here, and this is the Business of Becoming podcast for entrepreneurs who want to build the business and life of their dreams all on their own terms. Whether you're into marketing, sales, online business strategy, paid advertising, technology and scaling, or personal relationships, health, wealth, mindset, raising children, and spirituality, the Business of Becoming podcast is your weekly dose of no-holds-barred conversations, inspiration, and practical training so you can up-level your business and your life all on your own terms. This is the Business of Becoming podcast, episode number 7. Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Business of Becoming podcast. I am so excited to share this episode with you because I truly believe that my morning magic routine has saved my sanity and is the top reason I've been able to grow my business year after year. As a reminder, you can head on over to lorikennedyinc.com/podcast to download this episode's companion worksheet. It's a 2-page planning guide that I use in my own business to plan my day out the night before so that I don't wake up at the crack of dawn and stare at my computer for hours and then jump over to Facebook and go down that rabbit hole. Not that that's ever happened to me. What I suggest is that you print out 5 copies of the 2-page planning guide so that you can have one for each day of the week. Commit to using it for a week and see how much more you're able to get done. And you can get that 2-page planning guide over at lorikennedyinc.com/podcast. Make sure you find me on Instagram at lorikennedyinc and let me know how much you love it. So before I dive into the nitty-gritty details of how I structure my magic morning routine, let me share who this episode is for, and then I'm going to give you some context. This episode is for anyone, regardless of whether you're a morning or a night person. If you feel like you're constantly chasing the day, like there aren't enough hours in the day, you need more time, you aren't getting the must-do tasks completed, you're tired of feeling like you're always behind the 8 ball, and this episode is especially for you if you are a parent, specifically a mom who is on the verge of having a breakdown for whatever reason because you feel like you're going a million miles a minute and you aren't getting anything done. Again, wouldn't know anything about that one. One of the biggest gifts that my morning magic routine gave me was my sanity. I am, without a doubt, a better mom because of it and a better human being. My morning routine greatly contributes to helping me feel the way that I want to feel throughout the day, and it's the worst to start your day in a rush with people who need things from you, and then all you want to do is sit quietly and drink coffee. That's me, or tea. If you're struggling with time management and you have a crazy morning that ruins your energy for the day, this episode is especially for you. Now let me give you a bit of context, and then I'm going to dive into my specific morning routine and why I do what I do. So my obsession with my morning routine started back in 2012, and at that time I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. I was a single mom, I'm now divorced, and I had my nutrition practice and signature program running out of multiple gyms, and I was just about to take my business online. So there was a lot going on, and I felt like I was going to break apart into tiny pieces. I needed more hours in the day, and I also felt like I was chasing the day, like I never had control over my time or really felt grounded in doing what I was doing. Now, the one thing that you should know about me is that I've always been a morning person, so it was easy for me to slide into this morning routine. But please don't automatically disqualify yourself if you're not a morning person. This routine will work for you too, you just might implement it in the afternoon or at night. Okay, back to the context. I had just joined my first mastermind, and one of my business coaches, Craig Ballantyne, the creator of the Perfect Life Formula, told me that the only way to create more time in my day was to either wake up earlier or go to bed later. Now, as amazing as Craig is, he's a man, and he doesn't have kids. I was a 30-year-old single mom with 2 kids and a 60-hour work week. When he said that, I pretty much laughed in his face. Craig, I can't even form sentences past 8 p.m. There's no way that I can stay awake to work and produce anything of quality. He looked at me without acknowledging my very valid excuse and said, well, then wake up earlier, or don't, and then you won't hit your goals. Right. Okay, good point. So I started to set my alarm for 5 a.m. and I've been waking up at 5 a.m. ever since. On the weekends, I don't set the alarm, but I usually wake up around 6 regardless of what time I go to bed, which is super annoying when all I want to do is sleep in on a Sunday. All right, so now you have a bit of context. I'd love to help you create your own morning or evening magic routine. The purpose of having a morning or nighttime magic routine is so that you can do your best work during the time that you can get into the flow. So the flow is what I call the magic time, and the tasks that you do during your magic time, during the time where you're the most focused and the most creative, are the tasks that are specifically linked to driving your business forward. So for example, sales, marketing, that's basically it. Those are the tasks that drive your business forward. Creating content that either attracts leads, nurture leads, or sell leads, right? Doing sales copy or marketing or videos. And we're going to go into some specific examples of what to do during your magic time in a little bit. In order to establish when your magic time is, you need to really know when your best working time is, or what I like to call like your flow time, right? You know what I mean by flow time. There's a specific time of the day for everyone where it's the easiest to focus, to create content, to have ideas. Being in the flow feels like creative expression. Nothing feels forced. The words spill onto the page. So you know when you're in the flow, when it's really easy for you to just dive into the work and you're not jumping from task to task to task because it's hard for you to focus, right? That's when you know that you're in the flow. It's really important that you start to pay attention to when you are the most creative. When you can sit for an hour and just bang a piece of content out where other parts of the day, it might feel forced. You know, for me, for example, I can rip out 1,500 words in under an hour early in the morning, whereas in the afternoon, it's really hard. It feels forced. I'm staring at the page and the cursor's blinking, but it's like I have almost like writer's block. Right? So it's really important for you to be aware of when you work best, of when you are the most focused, of when you are the most creative. We all have different parts of the day where that happens for us, where we're able to very easily and very quickly get into the flow. And the reason that you need to know when your flow time is so that you can create a routine around your magic time, plan your schedule around it, so that you can fiercely protect that time to work on the tasks that drive your business forward. And in my opinion, that's part of having time freedom, right? Part of having time freedom is to plan your schedule around the times when you work best for certain activities. So during my magic time, I'm not going to be, doing admin work because I'm going to waste that precious flow time. So once you know when your flow time is, it's up to you to fiercely protect it. Mine is first thing in the morning before the world is awake and no one is needing or wanting anything from me. So your magic flow time should be blocked off on your calendar so that you don't schedule clients. If you work one-on-one with clients, you don't schedule clients during your flow time, right? And if you happen to work full-time, I'm going to share a little bit about how to deal with that later, but just know that probably will require you to get up a little bit earlier or work later into the night. So please do start to pay attention in your day to when it's really easy for you to sit down and really get into the flow, get into a task that feels creative, feels fulfilling, feels nurturing to your soul. That's flow time. And so perhaps track it over the course of a week, right? When you work best and when you're not really feeling it, so that you can put it into your calendar, schedule it, create boundaries around it, and fiercely protect it. So now that we've established that you need to define and protect your magic time, you're probably thinking, okay, Lori, got it. I need to identify when I have flow time so that I can fiercely protect it. But what do I actually do during that time? My to-do list is 100 items long. So before I give you examples of how I use my magic time, let me just say that there's no right or wrong way to use your magic time. What you choose to do is actually based on a couple of things. So the first thing is how you actually want to feel first thing in the morning, right? The activities and actions that feel fulfilling and creative to you. And then third, your weekly, monthly, or quarterly goals. The reason why you're creating this routine is to give yourself more time in the morning or the evening to get the big ticket items done in your business. But there's nothing wrong with taking a morning or two to learn, to exercise, or to do whatever it is that you want to do. After all, time freedom is one of the reasons you decided to become an entrepreneur. So I'm going to share how I structure my morning magic time, and if it resonates with you, awesome. Feel free to model it or just take away some key ideas so that you can create your own routine. It's important for you to identify when you work best and then set a boundary around that time. Standing up for yourself by creating a boundary around that time helps you to feel like the boss that you are. Making yourself unavailable during that time is basically your way of energetically saying, I'm prioritizing my business right now because I have goals. This is important to me, so please don't interrupt. So before I set the boundary around my morning magic time, I felt like I was always accommodating to other people. I remember saying to the phrase, okay, I'll do that and I'll get to what I need to do later. I said that a lot. And then, of course, I obviously never got it done. But once I implemented and set the boundary around my morning routine, I was able to get more writing done, which for me feels really fulfilling, creative, and is directly linked to bringing in revenue into my business. Okay, so let's move on to how I structure my morning magic routine, and then I'll give you some ideas of what you could be doing during your own magic time. My morning magic routine actually starts the night before with a brief planning session. So I've given you my personal planning guide, which you can download at www.lorikennedyinc.com/podcast. The planning either happens at the end of my workday or after I put my kids to bed. And I use the 2-page planning guide to plan out the very next day. And I love that it's old school with a pen and paper. For me, there's just something so cathartic about planning out your day versus typing it. So when I first started my morning magic routine, I didn't plan out my day the night before, and then I'd wake up, have coffee, sit down at my computer, and stare at that to-do list. And I wasted so much time and felt so anxious about what it was that I should be doing because the to-do list was long, and it was like I would have this mini anxiety attack at 5 a.m., which isn't helpful for anyone. So I needed to adjust my routine to start the night before. So maybe you're thinking, okay, well, how do I actually know what to focus on? There's so much to do. Yep, there is, and there always will be. So each quarter, we plan out the projects that as a company we're going to focus on. Now, if you're a one-woman or man show, you should actually implement quarterly planning sessions for yourself and decide what it is that you're going to focus on. So based on those projects, we can then reverse engineer the steps that we need to take in order to complete those projects and the deadlines that they need to be completed by. So once we have those deadlines, I can then go and plan out my own time. So every Monday, I determine what my 3 critical tasks are for that week, which are based on those deadlines for the quarterly projects. Of course, I could write down more than 3 things. I have 100 things to do on any given day, but I need to be realistic so that I don't overwhelm myself, so that I don't feel like I need to rush through things, and also because I've got kids. They go to gymnastics and hockey, and I also have a team to manage, and so by me being realistic and only writing down those 3 things that need to get done that week, I feel like I can focus and I'm not overwhelmed. So based on what the tasks are that week will determine what I focus on each morning, and also not every morning is the same. So for example, I spent 2 mornings outlining this podcast episode, right? So whatever I'm going to create in the morning is written down and outlined the night before. So one of the things that works really well for me is not having to make decisions in the morning. So I want to preserve my flow and my creativity as much as possible. So planning out what I'm going to work on the night before removes any decisions or really any thinking that I need to do in the morning and just allows me to jump right into content creation after I've had some coffee, of course, because it is 5 a.m. after all. On a more personal note, I also don't bother getting dressed or really doing any hygiene things in the morning. I don't decide what I'm going to wear or anything like that. That comes later. Making decisions takes mental energy, and I don't want to waste any of it in the morning. It's reserved solely for my creativity. So before I go to bed, I've outlined the singular task that I'm going to work on the very next morning. Then the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. I pee, make coffee, I add 2 scoops of collagen to keep my blood sugar levels stable, and I sit down at the computer. Every day is the same. I don't switch from coffee to tea or waste mental energy trying to decide what tea to brew. Pee, coffee, collagen, computer, content creation. That's how it goes. And I usually have about 60 to 90 minutes to get that writing done. And sometimes I get a full 2 hours if my kids sleep in until 7. It's rare, but on those days, I feel like I'm on fire and I love it. So now let's talk about what to actually do during your magic time, and unfortunately, it's not posting on social media. Since your magic time is the time where it's easiest for you to get into the flow, I suggest focusing on content creation. It's hard to write a blog post or emails or a sales page or even strategically plan when you only have short blocks like 15 minutes here or 30 minutes there and you keep getting interrupted. And if you're anything like me, once that real workday hits, it's really hard to get uninterrupted time to actually get into the flow and be creative. And I know myself well enough that I won't even try to write content in the afternoon anymore because it's crap and it always feels forced. So if I have to create content, I'll wait until the very next morning in order to do it. So you're going to plan out what tasks that you're going to focus on during your magic time the night before, but let's work through some examples now. During your magic time, you're going to do the tasks that are directly linked to driving your business forward that you actually enjoy doing, because the last thing that I want for you is for you to start your day with a task that drives you insane. So it doesn't matter what your business is or what you're selling, you want to use your magic time to create, which usually means creating content. So some examples: writing blog posts, writing emails to your list like your weekly email newsletter, scripting outlines for Facebook Lives or videos that you need to record, writing sales page copy, creating program content, or just strategizing, planning, and coming up with new ideas. I'm not adding client work to this list because, in my opinion, the client work doesn't actually drive your business forward. You should have other scheduled times to deal with your client work. And the reason I've been able to produce so much content over the years, it's because it's the first thing that I do every single day. So when my day goes sideways, as it does, I know that my content, that intellectual property that I'm creating that makes me money in my business, has already been completed. So here's a list of things that I don't do during my magic time. I do not answer emails. I do not go on social media. I don't do any admin work. I don't do any client work. I don't worry about graphics or social media content, and I certainly don't do any type of financials or data entry because that frustrates me and I don't want to start my day feeling frustrated. So now that we've brainstormed a list of creative tasks to do during your magic time, let's talk about what happens when I wake up at 5 a.m. and just can't get into the flow. Some mornings it feels like my brain is all jumbled up and nothing is coming out, or whatever is coming out is complete crap and I'm not proud of it and I'm not going to publish it. And of course, there are times where I can't get into the flow and I spend half an hour doing mindless tasks that make me feel like I'm being productive, but in reality, it's just busy work. So when those times happen, I just roll with it. I don't try to force the flow, nor do I beat myself up over it. If I'm having one of these mornings, then I'll likely do one of these things. I will usually start with doing a full brain dump. So I'll just grab some scrap paper and a pen and literally vomit whatever is going on in my brain onto the paper. It doesn't matter if it's personal or business or feelings or whatever that loop is that's going on in my mind that I just can't release gets written onto the piece of paper. And I find usually when I write it down, I'm able to release it and let go of it. Or sometimes if there's, something that I'm stuck on in my business where I need to actually strategize or map something, then I'll do that. I'll plan, I'll create a funnel. That I'm a geek like that, and that's actually cathartic to me and it's helpful. I'll have a big to-do list, so that's part of the brain dump. Sometimes I'll just actually put the computer away for a little bit. I'll light some candles. I'll maybe pull tarot cards, which I do quite often. And I'll just ask those that are guiding me to take whatever feelings I'm having away and replace them with clarity and calmness. And if nothing else works, you can find me in my basement dancing it out. One of the things that Tony Robbins says is that it's helpful to change your state. And really the only way to change your state is to change your physiology. And so for me, I'll put some music on, I'll start moving my body, and I'll actually move that energy, that sort of frantic, frenetic, static energy that I'm feeling. I'll do my best to sort of dance it out and move it out of my body. And so by the time this usually happens, I've wasted the whole morning, and then I need to go into mom mode. And I didn't get done what I needed to get done that day. And I used to get really pissed off. I used to get really angry and really frustrated because, again, I would feel like I was behind. And at the same time, I realized that that's not helpful and that's not productive. And so when those mornings happen, they don't happen all the time, but I would say a couple times a month, they happen where I'm stuck, I can't get into the flow. I just appreciate it. I appreciate that not every day is going to be perfect. I appreciate the fact that I have the freedom to do what I want to do in the morning. I'm still starting my day for myself, and it's probably my body's way of just saying you need a bit of a break and you need to move your body to get some of that stale energy out. So if you experience those types of mornings, I suggest not beating yourself up over them. Just readjust your schedule, tweak whatever it is that you need to tweak, and do the work that you missed out on the very next day. So at the time of this recording, my kids are 9 and 6, so they can absolutely fend for themselves in the morning. And we've had many discussions about my morning magic time routine, and luckily they can now tell time and they know not to interrupt me until 6:30 in the morning. They can come downstairs, they can get a snack if they want to, but then they either need to go back into their rooms until 6:30, or they just need to be really quiet. It doesn't matter to me what they do. They could watch the iPad just as long as they are quiet and they don't really interrupt the flow. Now, that might sound negligent or cruel, but let me just say this. I'm a way better mom. I'm way more calmer, I'm patient, and I'm happier when I start my day doing something creative that fills up my soul versus waking up to the alarm clock, having to rush around, get myself ready, get my kids ready, do the whole frantic morning thing, and then race out the door. Once 6:30 hits, I slide into mom mode, and we have a routine that we follow. Breakfast, make lunches, which they help out with, get dressed, brush teeth, and then out the door. It's the same every day. Now, obviously it was a lot harder when my kids were smaller, but honestly, I've got no shame. The TV went on, the snacks were given on the couch, and they sat there and they watched until I was done. And I'm sharing this part of my routine with you because if you have a family, you're going to need to ask them for help. You're going to need to get them on board. It's important that you ask for help and share why you're waking up at the crack of dawn. Explain how important it is for you to have your flow time, not only because you want to grow your business, but also because you need to start your day doing something that nurtures your soul. It saves your sanity. That's not being selfish. That's taking care of yourself, and you deserve that time. Having a magic routine is especially important if you work full-time and you're trying to grow your business because you have even less time than the rest of us, which makes it critical for you to be able to focus on the one task at a time that drives your business forward. And let's face it, if you work full-time, you really only have before and after work. And so if you're anything like me, forming sentences after 8 p.m. is a challenge. So you're going to need to wake up a little bit earlier, right, in order to get that done. You don't have to go full out and wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Incrementally wake up earlier, maybe by about 10 or 15 minutes until your body gets used to it. So try setting your alarm for 15 minutes earlier tomorrow and don't hit that snooze button. Now, I'd love to hear how your magic routine is changing your life and increasing your productivity, so please make sure to hit me up on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Lori Kennedy Inc. So before I wrap up this episode, let's do a little review. Here's some tips for creating your magic routine, whether that's at night or in the morning. Know when your magic flow time is. It's usually about a 60 to 90 minute gap when you can produce content quickly and are most creative. Plan your magic time the night before so that you don't wake up and waste time and energy thinking about what you should be doing or waste time at night and then you're too tired to do the work. Avoid making any decisions in the morning or evening before your magic time. Have a routine and repeat it as if it was Groundhog's Day. Don't beat yourself up if you can't get into the flow. It will happen more often than you think. And lastly, make sure to get your family on board. Creating a routine and rituals that help you get into the flow and focus has not only helped me grow my business, but I promise it saved my sanity, and I know that it will help you too. So if this episode was helpful to you, I'd love you to subscribe to the Business of Becoming podcast over on iTunes and leave a review. Include the time you wake up in the morning and let me know how waking up earlier has changed your life. I do hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Business of Becoming podcast. As always, you can find any resources and links mentioned on the show over on the show notes available on lorikennedyinc.com/podcast. And remember to subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. Let me know what you loved most about this episode. And again, thank you for listening to the Business of Becoming podcast.